Hey guys, just reading a really good book, the Ori Holfmeklers Unlock Your Muscle Gene. It just got me kind of thinking. Again, I'm not going to have an intro or anything to this video. I'm just literally just going to talk at you. But there's a great chapter in about your fuel sources, which has kind of expanded my knowledge even on what your body's going to be best at using. Your carbohydrates, your fats, your protein as your fuel source. I was always under and I've talked about it before, that some people will use fat better and other people will use carbohydrate better as their fuel source. But Ori Holfmeklers talks about people using protein as their main source, which is actually fascinating. And he talks about the fitness of the individual and the amount of muscle they have will determine what fuel source they use best. So I always find when I'm working with clients and working with people that I'm generally trying to find out if they work better with fats or better with carbs. People tend to fall into the two somatotypes. So some people work really well off carbohydrates and others work really well off fats. I always talk about that. I'm always a fat person. Like, I can drop my carbs to zero and function perfectly well, and my body will respond to that and my brain doesn't shut down. But as soon as I cut my fats, it starts to completely cut off and my performance and mental performance just really starts to drop. But what Ori Holfmeklers talks about is how the more muscle your body has, the better you are going to be at utilizing fat as your main fuel source. So it's a really interesting bit where he talks about the more durable your muscles become and the better you do with all fuels, but you'll do especially well with fat for fuel because of the oxidation of fat in the cells. So it's something worth considering. If you're somebody that trains and is at quite a high level, he talks about how to combine the meals and how to combine your fuel source. I've talked about it before in videos ages back when I talked about that I generally try and avoid combining carbohydrates and fats in the same meal. In my off season, when I don't really care how I look, like now I don't care. I just, if I look good, it's more of a byproduct of the way I live as opposed to anything else. So I'll combine my carbs and fats, but in contest prep or photo shoot prep or anything like that, I never combine them. I'll always have protein and fat or carbohydrate and protein. I don't overlap them. I always found it was one of these things that was more applied knowledge. I didn't realize the science behind what backed it up. All I knew was when I did that, my body responded quicker, that I got leaner, and my body just seemed to be a lot better at absorbing the meals and I didn't get bloated and sluggish. But actually reading Ori Holfmeklers' book, The Unlock Your Muscle Gene, he talks about how your body will prioritize its fats or carbohydrates. It will prioritize its fuel source. It's like petrol or diesel for a car. It will prioritize what it wants to use. So small amounts of carbohydrates in the fat and protein meal is fine, and small amount of fat in the carbohydrate or in a fat and protein meal with a small amount of carbohydrates is going to be fine. But it's when you have a high amount of fat and a high amount of carbohydrate and a high amount of protein, because your body is going to prioritize what it uses, and it actually makes it makes it less efficient at using the primary source. So whether you're a carb person or fat, so it's something that's worth considering, that if you're eating meals that have a protein source and a fat source, and a carbohydrate source, and you're looking to get leaner and make your body more efficient in performance or look or aesthetics, might be worth trying to drop out those other macronutrients. So just do protein meals with fats or just do carbohydrate meals with protein, and see how your body responds. There's also the argument that if you're already overweight or carrying a lot of body fat, that you shouldn't be using carbohydrates as your fuel source, and I get that. Obviously, most people that are overweight, you're going to be a little bit insulin resistant. Basically, mean your body. It's kind of like when you're trying to eat the carbs. It's for insulin resistant. It's kind of like if you have a room full of people and you can't fit anyone else in there. That's kind of what it's like with carbohydrates trying to get into the cells of someone that's insulin resistant. It's like there's no more room. You're so resistant. It's literally like a bouncer at the door turning people away. That's what insulin resistant is with carbohydrates. So that's why people that are overweight or insulin resistant don't actually have any energy when they eat carbohydrates, because there's too many people in the room and the bouncers are turning them away. You literally can't get that carbohydrate, which is primary for energy, into your body to be used for fuel. So obviously you would stick with things like protein and maybe even fat sources like medium chain triglycerides, coconut oil, things like that, because it would help oxidize and break down, or help break down some of the fat that's already in the body. without actually having any effect on your blood sugars and things like that. So you would actually make yourself more insulin sensitive, so that when you do eat carbs, you get the energy from them. I've talked about this before, where they overweight. If you're someone that's overweight and they're eating like carby foods and they never get any energy from them, and people are wondering why they have no energy. They're like, well, I eat loads of food, I eat loads of carbs and no energy, because you're insulin resistant. It actually doesn't work. As I said, it's like trying to go into a full room and a bouncer at the door is turning you away. So that's just some food for thought, pardon the pun, about your meals. If you're looking to get a more aesthetic physique, try dropping out your carbs or protein or your fats from a meal and just stick to a carb and protein meal or a fat and protein meal. So again, I'm going to start doing a couple of more off the cuff videos like this, just because I was reading a book and I was like, fuck, I'm going to share this with people. This is amazing. So the book is Unlock Your Muscle Gene. Ori Holfmekler, he's the guy that wrote Minimum Fat, Maximum Muscle, which is about intermittent fasting and making sure your body processes its own steroidal hormones and natural growth hormone through fasting through the day. I tried it. It was a fucking disaster. I was starving. I couldn't do it, but it works. Like, my body did respond to it. But some of his principles are amazing, and just apply what works for you. So I hope this video helps.